I believe everyone's more productive when they're at work, and how do you mentor someone over a phone? You can't. You got to look at them eye to eye, over the water cooler, wherever, train them, camaraderie, plus the economy too. I'll just use downtown Toronto, for example. The path. There's hard-working entrepreneurs that their businesses basically just died when they weren't seeing the flow of traffic. But I understand all the companies I've talked to, from the banks to the insurance companies to everyone else, everyone needs to go back to work. Half the public service is already at work 5 days a week, and I want to thank them. And I just look forward to having everyone back to work.
And just on the topic of why now, is the big bank sending people back to work and Rogers sending people back to work, did that factor into your government's decision on why to do this now?
No, I think it's just time. Everyone's kind of saying it's time to get back to work. It's simple as that. So we look forward to having everyone back. I'm very grateful for the work they do. We have best public service in Canada, and I appreciate the work they do every day.
So tell me, Bob, the new project you're working on, what's the progress? We're having this water cooler chat over here in the 1950s. Tell me all about the latest project that you're doing and how's that going? Was that you don't work in my team? You're in a different department? No way, Jose. But why is it that these guys, whenever they're making speeches, they always have like construction workers behind them? Like just ready to go, like as if they're like just about to get in and start building right away. Anybody else notice how they always have construction workers behind them? Or like sometimes they have the hard hats on when they're talking? And what is it with it's time to get back to work? Like, isn't that a little bit disrespectful to the people that have actually been working? Because I work remotely, at least for now. And I know that sometimes I work off the clock, right? As many people do as well. So for them to be saying it's time to get back to work, it gives the impression that people were not working all along. Do they mean it's time to go back to the offices? And did anybody catch what he said when he said they're like businesses, they need like people to be commuting?
The economy too. I'll just use downtown Toronto, for example. The path. There's hard-working entrepreneurs that their businesses basically just died when they weren't seeing the flow of traffic.
Now, I agree with him. Of course, like the economy is going to suffer if nobody's going out anymore, right? Because if you're driving, then you have a tendency of stopping at Tim Hortons or stopping for lunch, right? Lots of all these companies, they have like lots of restaurants around them for lunch breaks, so they are losing all that revenue. So I understand where he's coming from. But the real question is that really a justifiable reason to bring people that were already effective and productive working from home? Is that a good enough reason to make them come into the office just so that they can spend money, like commuting, and spend money during lunch breaks? Because that's kind of what I heard him say. Is that a good enough reason? Because what about the environment, right? We talk about the environment all the time, global warming all the time. So what about the environment and how much emissions have we been saving by people working remotely? Meanwhile, I would like to wonder as well how often he goes into the office. Like, I don't even know if he has an office. Y'all let me know down in the comments below, how often does Premier Doug Ford go to the office? Now, don't get me wrong, I really admire the way he's standing up to Donald Trump. As it relates to the tariffs, like no elbow is higher up than Doug Ford's. Right? He's like, he's ready to go, right? But I don't agree with him on this particular policy whatsoever. I think if people are being productive already working from home, then they should be allowed to continue to work from home. Now, if productivity has taken a hit, then please present me the data, and I will be the first person to tell you that everybody back into the office. We're going to check out some comments here and see what the internet has to say about this one. So one comment says exactly what I was thinking. Bro spends half the year at his cottage and wants us to grind every day in the office. My thoughts exactly. I don't know how often do premiers go to parliament. I don't think so. Like, I don't know where they go really. Like, I don't know much about what they do. I know like with the MPs, they have parliament at least, but I don't know if Doug Ford even goes to the office really. So someone else says, I'm actually less productive when I go into the office. LOL. Exactly. Like lots of times it's just chit chatting that happens at those water coolers, right? Chit chatting. Nobody's really talking about projects. I'll tell you that much. Someone says, "Can we not?" Another one says, "They are at work. They are literally working. You just want to force 60,000 people to pay for gas, transit, food, etc. This is not about productivity or mentoring someone over the water cooler. It's about taxes that you want back in the government's pockets." I agree. I think that that's exactly right, actually, because imagine how much, because everything you buy while you're outside of your house is taxed, right? So I think that's exactly right. I think this commentary is onto something, to be honest. Somebody else says, old school thinking, not a good look for Ford. I think so as well, right? Someone else says, I agree with this. There is no benefit to working from home. In-person should be mandatory. Yeah, so I can understand where you say in-person should be mandatory when there has been proven records of lack of productivity or people taking advantage of it. But are you trying to say that like the public workers, the public servants, that they've been lacking productivity? Is that what you're saying? Because I didn't notice any difference in services. All the wait times are still the same. Now you try to call any agency and that's all you get is AI after AI. They talk and talk and talk like, oh, if you would like this, press this. If you would like that, press that. And before you know it, you're frustrated and you've given up. Anyways, I don't know if anybody else can relate. Can anybody get a hold of a human being nowadays anytime you call any of these agencies? Somebody else says back to work. They are working. Exactly. They are working. I think most people are working. Someone else says he's right. Get back to the office, people. Talk about the boot leaking. It's like someone else says the path sucks. Someone else says how many days at the cottage, doggy? Yeah, that's a good question. Why don't you ask him? Somebody else says this policy would disproportionately affect women, family, caregivers, and people with disabilities. Hybrid or remote has allowed people to work despite their circumstances. I would agree with this, and I like how they made it clear that it's not just women but also family caregivers, because nowadays we have women that are even the breadwinners of their family, making way more than their husbands, and then their husband is the family caregiver. So really, I think it's going to affect family caregivers for sure. People that are having to run their children to school, back from school, to soccer practice, because that's really what matters in life, right? But nowadays, I find people, we're leaving to work, right? We just leave to work, and that's like the norm in the West, right? In the first world is to leave to work rather than work to leave. Somebody else says, over the water cooler. What is this, the 50s? My thought exactly. Someone else says, we're working. This is ridiculous. I agree. So essentially, like, it's just like I was thinking, like the consensus is that this is a little bit insultive, like saying it's time to get back to work, indicating that these people haven't been working all along. Meanwhile, people are here really, really trying their best, right? But actually, I'm going to play this next clip here, and it's actually someone with a very interesting angle, and I really want you guys to pay close attention. And let's talk about this guy's angle down in the comments below. How true do you think this guy is?
Do you want to know why remote work is dying in 2025 and toxic CEOs want you back in the office 5 days a week? It has very little to do with corporate real estate and almost nothing to do with collaboration and work culture, but everything to do with control. You see, during the pandemic, people were allowed to work from home, and they realized something really simple. As long as they got their work done, as long as they got results, they were actually free to structure their workday in any way they wanted. So people took advantage of that. They went out for a walk in the morning. Maybe they had lunch with their kids. They had family time. And then they would even go ahead and work in the evenings. You see, they realized that as long as their work was on a laptop, they could really work whenever they want. And as long as they were hitting their goals, their targets, and their results, they were free to do it. This meant that for the first time in history...
Yeah, and so that's what I was saying earlier, right? Very good point, because if you're still making your deliverables, so then what's the problem? Who cares if you're not at your desk between 9 to 5, as long as you deliver what it is you're meant to deliver?
Employees had a lot of work-life balance. They could literally structure their day any way they want. They could take care of their family, take care of their health, work on hobbies, even work on a side hustle, which obviously toxic bosses hate. But you see, if companies are paying you 6 figures or more, which a lot of these people are getting paid, they do not want you to focus on anything else but work. And they realized that the easiest way to get people to focus 100% on work was to force them back to the office. You see, you got a lot more control over people when they're in the office. You can monitor them, you can manage them. And that's a real reason they're forcing people back to the office, and remote work is dying in 2025.
So what do you guys have to say about that one? Do you think he's a conspiracy theory or he's making some good points? Essentially, he's alluding to the fact that they don't want us to have a good work-life balance. But why not? Why would they want complete and absolute control over people's lives, especially their workers? Why wouldn't they want their employees to have a great work-life balance? Curiouser and curiouser. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you think about this one. Be sure to smash that like and that subscribe. And until next time, peace.